In the world of video games, there are so many different tiers of games. As the game industry has grown, so has the budget and scope of these projects. Big, epic sagas unfolding with some of your favorite franchises over the years. And you have people who have grown up with these franchises, which now have the technology and resources to make them the biggest and the best. With this growing industry, our culture has really started to break them up into more logical types of games, based on size and budget. You have indie games, AA games, AAA games, too big to fail games, and finally, games. Yeah, God of War Ragnarok is one of those. Ragnarok's probably one of the most bombastic games I've ever played in my life. The reason it is this way is because the game never shies away from big moments. With the success of its predecessor, Santa Monica Studios was given complete freedom on how big and beefy and burly they want this game to be. All your fights, story beats, and action are given so much oomph throughout the game. Big bone-crunching hits, long looping smashes. Everything this game has is designed for you to feel impact. Not a lot of games do this well, but God of War nails it perfectly. My man Kratos just punching through this chest and digging through it like a rabid dog. When you grapple to a wall, the whole screen shakes. You parry, you can see your opponent's body contort. Hell, literally shoving a key in a keyhole is somehow a violent action. God of War Ragnarok puts so much weight in its presentation. Everything feels so brawny and violent. You open up the game fighting a 500-pound dude, then fighting a 500-pound bear, and seeing someone turn into a bear. I mean, the composer's name is literally Bear, but don't let this fool you. This game is as beautiful as it is violent. A huge leg up it gets on its predecessor is how diverse and rich the biomes of Ragnarok feel. These shots and environments here, this is what virtually an unlimited budget will get you in a video game. Every world has its own feel to it, with each world being impacted differently by Thimblewinter, so we aren't forever just stuck in worlds with snow and gray, dark skies. Ragnarok is exactly what you want out of the next-gen AAA experience. All of these worlds are just soaked in lore. And even if you aren't a fan of Norse mythology, you can't help but take the long way around to your destination just so you can hear another minute of one of Mimir's fables. There's so much quality and production value in every moment of this game. Brilliant facial expressions, jaw-dropping cinematography. I mean, the whole game is one single camera shot. It's unbelievable and executed flawlessly. There's a soundtrack that'll make Hans Zimmer jealous. Seriously, this is like some Oscar-level music on this game. In the sheer term of quality, it's better and more complete than anything I've heard in theaters in the last few years. God of War is what spending $70 on the game should look like. It feels like its presentation is probably the most polished I've seen all year. Now, this is normally the part in the review where I add on a bunch of critiques and nitpicks and stuff like that, but in terms of presentation, I got nothing. Alright, so I have a question. Do you like fun? Okay, but hear me out. Do you like fun that also involves jumping on a troll's back, hitting it in the mouth with an axe, dragging it to the ground, and then dropping its own giant club directly on its face? Oh, you do. Well, right this way then. God of War 2018 already had some amazing combat, and Ragnarok just took what made it successful and gave you more variety and more satisfaction. The combat of this game takes a second for you to wrap your head around. I mean, early in the game, I really caught myself struggling to keep track of some of the buttons and doing a little bit of finger gymnastics to figure out how to hit the right combos, but that actually feels very intentional. When a game lets you organically level up your mechanical skills, that will always get 2 thumbs up for me. They don't overwhelm you with your enemies. They throw progressively more challenging and diverse enemies at you that push you to start using different abilities and techniques, and then get them integrated into your regular combat style. So you start out slow, get your bearings, and by the time you're 20 hours in, you were just absolutely smoking enemies, and son of a bitch, you look great doing it. My biggest critique when it comes to combat is there isn't a whole lot of incentive to experiment, specifically when it comes to your runic attacks. Once you get into the flow of what you want, there's really no reason to swap them out. I'm pretty sure I had the exact same runic attacks for the axe the entire game, and that is a testament to how satisfying and clean those attacks were. I mean, I had no desire to swap to any others. I feel like there's a pretty big missed opportunity to create some more satisfying runic attacks as you progress. Speaking of weapons, the Leviathan Axe I think is probably my favorite video game weapon right now. It packs the most satisfying punch and is basically a Swiss Army knife of combat utility. You got range, speed, power, ground icicles, ring around the rosy, the overhead bop, the freeze and punch, all the classics. Outside of combat, exploration in God of War is pretty satisfying, except for this fucking spastic quest indicator on the compass. All of the worlds have plenty of collectibles and things to find, but never is overwhelming. In my opinion, it doesn't really suffer from like the Ubisoft syndrome. A lot of your collectibles and side quests you organically find along your way, as long as you're just a little bit curious. The world design, stellar. Not a lot of backtracking and really straightforward discoverability. By going even 100 meters off the beaten path, you're most likely going to be rewarded with something. Exploration brilliantly weaves together combat and puzzle solving. For every encounter you have, there's always a fun puzzle to solve. It's a great way to balance out the insanely intense combat. Some are easy, and some will have you staring at the area for 20 seconds, until one of your companions gives away the solution. Just like in combat, puzzles are varied and fresh. You may understand the mechanic to solve, but you don't really understand the solution itself. And solving it is just as satisfying as beating a mini-boss. The roughest part of Ragnarok is its UI. This inventory system is an abomination. I can't figure out which panel I'm in and what I'm trying to access, what abilities I'm looking at. I would legitimately forget about certain equipable items because the fact they were so buried away in the inventory UI. It was never really easy to navigate this. So many misclick back buttons taking me out of the panel I wanted to be in. But lucky for you, 98% of this game is spent outside of this menu, so I'll accept a subpar experience for 2% of the game. The gameplay for Ragnarok is some of the most visceral and responsive in gaming, and ensures that once you pick it up, it is going to be very hard for you to put down.
They like the Egros.
God of War Ragnarok is what every single Marvel movie wishes it was. Its storytelling is insanely balanced between loud, crazy action, funny side bits and quips, and the zoomed in human moments. God of War 2018 walked so Ragnarok could soar. And one of the ways it soars is through its masterful character development. You're going to see characters change all throughout this game. And almost every scene feels so earned. You're not going to have characters doing uncharacteristic things. Ragnarok is so unashamed to show its characters' flaws. And even better, sometimes these flaws can't be resolved. Sometimes it's just who they are. They aren't afraid to not give characters all happy endings, but instead they give them complex resolutions which line up directly with their complex characters. Ragnarok takes place a few years after God of War 2018, but it makes sure you never feel left out. The time skip is done pretty gracefully, and a great way to make some characters grow up both emotionally and physically. Looking at you, Atreus. Immediately, the game reminds you of all the pain and sorrow that Kratos and Atreus left behind in the previous game. In this game, emotions are just perpetually running high. In fact, your most nuanced and down-to-earth takes normally are from Kratos and Mimir. You have this almost Mass Effect style group of people at your home base that are continuing to grow. They all have individual interactions with one another and have some great back and forth even when Kratos is not involved. For a media where everyone is just a bunch of pixels, there's some sensational chemistry between all the characters. This is due to some beautiful VO work from the entire cast. This is some of the best video game acting I think I've ever seen. Not just voice acting, but motion capture and facial expressions are also meticulous and well crafted. There's so many non-verbal cues that happen throughout the game. A huge shout out to Christopher Judge, who has one of the all-time acting jobs as Kratos. He captures so many small and nuanced pieces of Kratos in his voice acting that I'm not sure anyone else can pull it off. Danielle Bisutti as Freya is also another huge standout in this game. Not only does she have to experience a wide range of emotions, but she has to crank them up to like 11. Her acting had me fully immersed in Freya, made her feel like the most human character in the game. Now I did mention chemistry, and that shines the surprising amount of humor this game has. Now that all the characters have a rapport, they aren't afraid to bullshit with one another. And one thing that's cool here is it's not like a single person is comedic relief. Everyone has their time to do some comedic bits and quips. And the best part is those bits are never out of character.
Anybody need a snack? Kratos? Snack?
I do not need a snack.
Then you also bring in all these fun and quirky new characters, like Radikaskar, who's a big old squirrel that has all of his emotions split out doing his bidding. The characters never let me down this entire game, though the story itself does stumble in a couple spots. The biggest problem is pacing. The first 80% is so clean and well paced, then the last 20% just turns on the boosters. You have a couple characters who are introduced toward the end, and immediately the game is trying to push you into feeling something for them, and it just ends up feeling very rushed, so that they can get on to the climax of the game. Now the climax, now that shit is good. I love payoff when it comes to media, so it's no surprise the payoff of God of War's finale is absolutely stellar. And I'll tell you what, when I ended this game, I was so emotional, especially if you have any type of a small soft spot for father-son dynamics. Yeah, you're gonna get absolutely wrecked. I'll admit, I was nervous of how they'd be able to cleanly wrap this up, especially Kratos and Atreus' story arc, but don't worry, they absolutely stick the landing. A game like God of War is incredibly special. Whenever someone wants a narrative-driven game that's actually fun to play, God of War Ragnarok is going to be at the top of that list every single time. The only issue I had with this game is it was just more of God of War 2018. They added in a couple of extra bells and whistles, but there really isn't anything here that breaks away from the groundwork its predecessor laid. If you liked God of War 2018, then you'll love Ragnarok. And then if you didn't like God of War 2018, you're just a damn fool. The contrast, the brutal, violent combat woven in with one of the most touching video game narratives ever created is tremendously executed. This game is an absolute masterpiece.